Welcome back to the deep dive. Have you ever considered that maybe the greatest texts, the most powerful, concise ones, might actually contain a kind of blueprint, like a hidden architecture dictating their meaning, how they're arranged?
It's a fascinating thought, isn't it?
It really is. And today we're kind of cracking that idea open. We're going to look at two specific adjacent chapters from the Quran, incredibly short ones. Surah Al-Hurd, that's chapter 103, and right next door, Surah Al-Humaza, chapter 104.
Very short, but packed with meaning.
Exactly. We've got some sources here that really dig into the coherence between these two. So our mission today is to unpack this principle called munasaba, basically, internal coherence, and unlock this, well, this very precise structural and numerical link. Our sources actually code it as 1049.
hmm
And this isn't just about, vague themes linking up. This seems to be about finding a measurable, almost mathematical system.
Right. And munasaba, the field you mentioned, it's absolutely key here. It's the study, the systematic study, really, of how themes, meanings, the actual structures, even word counts, how they link different parts of the text, sometimes verses, sometimes whole chapters.
Like a unified field theory for the scripture. That's a great way to put it.
You could say that. I mean, it tackles a fundamental question. Why aren't the chapters in the written Quran, the Mushaf, arranged chronologically based on when they were revealed?
Which always makes you wonder, yeah.
Exactly. And scholars, figures like Al-Zarkashi, Al-Suyu, Ar-Rahib, they argued that this fixed arrangement, this internal coherence, it actually reveals a much deeper wisdom, what they called hikmah.
Okay.
For them, it was basically proof of the text's profound beauty, its perfection, its balaga, or eloquence.
So we're hunting for evidence of a design system, not just random placement. Let's dive into the first piece, Surah Allah, chapter 103. It's famous for being incredibly short, just 3 verses, 14 words total?
That's it, 14 words.
And there's that famous quote attributed to Imam al-Shafi, our sources bring it up too. Basically, if everything in the Quran was lost except Surah Al-Ar, it would be enough for guidance. That really tells you something about its density, its power.
It absolutely does. It highlights its, structural power. And this is where the precision really starts to show. Those 14 words, they aren't just lumped together. They fall into a specific numerical pattern, 1, 4, and 9. That's like the chapter's internal blueprint.
149. Okay. How does that break down?
So the very first verse, the oath, wal-air, by time, that's exactly one word.
One word.
It sets the stage. The single premise, time. This limited resource, the backdrop for everything else.
So time is locked in first, before we even get to people.
Precisely. Then verse 2, insana la fikzur. Indeed, mankind is in loss. That identification of the core problem, the sort of universal human condition of being adrift, that takes exactly 4 words.
1 word for the premise, 4 for the problem. Makes sense.
And then the final verse, which gives the solution, and it's multi-layered, it balances that problem statement perfectly. The formula for salvation takes exactly 9 words.
Wow. Okay, so 1 plus 4 plus 9, that's the 14 words. A complete argument structure right there.
A complete structural argument, yes. And those 9 words detailing the solution, they lay out the 4 essential saving actions, the pillars needed to pull humanity out of that state of loss.
Right, the famous 4. Can you list them?
Sure. First, I'm in faith. Second, amal your righteous deeds. Third, tawal bileki, mutually encouraging truth, enjoining truth. And fourth, tawal bi'abir, mutually encouraging patience, enjoining patience. That's the full 4-point plan, all packed into those 9 words.
The precision is really striking. The structure itself reinforces the message. So now we need to connect this internal 1 to 49 blueprint from chapter 103 to the next one, 104 Al-Humaza. This 1049 code our sources talk about. How does the math of 103 relate to its neighbor?
Right. So the 1, 4, and 9, that internal structure, forms the basis for this bigger system. We said 1 plus 4 plus 9 is 14, right? Total words in Surah 103.
Yep, got it.
The system then kind of zooms out, locating this 149 blueprint within the physical arrangement of the whole text, the mushaf.
Okay.
The code 1049 breaks down like coordinates. The number 104, well, that's the chapter number for the very next surah, Al-Humaza.
Ah, okay. 104.
And the number 9, that's precisely how many verses are in Surah Al-Humaza.
Wait, hold on. So the internal word structure of 103, the 149, adds up to 14 words, fine. But then that same 149 structure, when read differently, points directly to chapter 104, verse count 9.
That's exactly what the sources propose. This 1049 isn't some mystical secret number. They define it as, and I'm quoting roughly here, the coordinate for destruction when salvation is neglected, or the location of interpretation and argumentative system in the mushaf.
A coordinate. Wow.
Yeah, this alignment is presented as really strong evidence that these two chapters weren't just placed next to each other randomly. They form a single unified argument.
And the sources are careful to say this is about structure, a system, not just, playing with numbers or numerology. It's about how this pattern reflects the actual arrangement.
Absolutely. It's presented as structural analysis. And you can reflect on this connection, Tadaber. The numerical nodes link directly to meaning. Node 1, value 1,
Mm.
times single consciousness. Node 2, value 4. The problem, humanity and loss. Node 3, value 9. The solution, the four pillars in 9 words.
Right.
And the fact that chapter 104 also has 9 verses immediately after that 9-word solution, it's like, here's the solution, and bam, here's a 9-verse picture of what happens if you completely ignore it.
That flows perfectly into chapter 104, Surah al-Humaza then. If al-Alur is the manual for success, the how-to, then al-Humaza must be the detailed description of failure, the logical outcome if you ignore those 9 words.
Precisely. It's described as the Wajah Rugi, the face of loss. The spiritual portrait of that person in La Insana La Fusta, the one in Lost, mentioned back in Al-Adar. Al-Humaza shows you exactly what happens when you replace those 4 pillars. Faith, good deeds, enjoining truth, patience with their destructive opposites. The 9 verses paint that picture vividly.
Let's break down that contrast. Chapter 103 gave us 4 pillars for success. Chapter 104 seems to give 3 destructive traits for failure. What are they, and how do they map back or replace the pillars from 103?
Okay, so the character described in Al-Humaza, the one doomed. First, they're described as someone who engages in humaza and lumaza, basically. Contempt, slander, backbiting, finding fault, insulting and censuring others.
And how does that connect?
That's the direct inversion, the failure, of pillars 3 and 4. Tawal balak, enjoining truth, and tawal bi abr, enjoining patience. Instead of building up a community with truthfulness and patient encouragement, this person tears it down with negativity, gossip, criticism.
Wow, that's a powerful contrast. Instead of truth and patience with others, it's censure and contempt towards others. Okay, what's the second trait?
The second trait, they focus entirely on jama amalan watada, piling up wealth and counting it obsessively. Hoarding.
And that replaces.
That replaces pillar number 2, amalalali, righteous deeds. Righteous deeds are about acting outwardly for good charity, helping the community, sharing resources, using what you have for others' benefit. Hoarding is the absolute opposite. It's turning completely inward, clinging to material wealth.
Total internalizing of resources instead of outward good deeds.
Got it.
And the third trait. The final nail in the coffin, so to speak.
The third trait is this powerful delusion. Yasabu anamaloge hoklada. He thinks that his wealth will make him immortal. He believes his wealth grants permanence.
And that directly counters.
Pillar number 1, Iman, faith. True faith includes recognizing life is temporary, that time walog is constantly passing, and real permanence lies beyond this material existence. The hoarder described here thinks their bank balance, their stuff, their influence, whatever it is, they think it stops the clock. It's a direct rejection of the oath of time that started the whole discussion in 103.
It really is a closed loop, isn't it? A system of spiritual cause and effect. Ignore the 9-word formula and you fall directly into the state described in the 9 verses next door. And the outcome described in Al-Humaza, the punishment, it seems just as precise.
It is. It provides the sharpest possible contrast. The punishment mentioned is being thrown into alama. It's described as a crushing fire, but specifically one that yataladiu al-afida, it rises up until it reaches the hearts.
Reaches the hearts.
Yes. So, if the success formula in Al-Alar centered on the state of the heart faith, patience, the punishment in Al-Humaza, specifically targets that very place. The place where the spiritual failure originated, the corruption of intention, belief, the heart itself.
It's chillingly precise. So if we zoom out again, these 2 tiny chapters, 103 and 104, they really form one complete argumentative unit, don't they?
Yeah.
How would you synthesize that unit for someone listening?
The sources call it a microcosmos of Dawa, like a miniature model of the entire call to faith and good action. Surah 103 gives you the structure, the path to salvation. Surah 104 gives you the vivid projection, the outcome, for the one who rejects that path. It's laid out side by side.
A choice, essentially.
Exactly. The whole arrangement presents a stark choice. Follow these 4 pillars, or you risk embodying these 3 destructive traits.
What really struck me in the source material was how relevant they made this ancient structure feel to right now, to our modern digital lives. That connection seemed really potent.
It is, isn't it? They draw direct parallels between the principles in these chapters and the pressures we face today with information overload, constant distraction.
Yeah, like the first verse of Alayan, establishing the absolute value of time. How often is that shattered now? Our time gets fractured, wasted on endless notifications, scrolling, just getting lost in the urgent now instead of the important. That sounds a lot like being in loss.
It really does. And think about the failure to enjoin truth and patience. How much does gossip, viral misinformation, just manufactured outrage, how much does that drown out actual truth-seeking online and offline?
It's overwhelming sometimes.
It can be. And instead of seeking knowledge, applying good manners, adab in how we interact, you see unfiltered opinions, often harsh ones, becoming the main way people enjoin things, which often just looks like the censure and fault-finding described in Al-Maza.
Like tawa without the awk or the abra.
Exactly. And the hoarding. That translates almost perfectly into the digital realm, doesn't it? Chasing validation, follower counts, hoarding digital influence, that becomes the goal. Replacing actual righteous deeds with viral metrics.
It really makes you think. It's like Alarat, written centuries ago, is almost perfectly designed as a survival manual for this incredibly busy, distracted era we live in. It gives you the checklist, the criteria to see if you're spiritually balanced or not.
That really is the core takeaway, I think. The structure implies that if you're not actively working on the aloi formula, the one anchored by that 149 structure we talked about, then your default position, spiritually, tends to slide towards the condition described right next door in Al-Humaza. It's almost gravitational.
So we started looking for a hidden architecture, a system. And it seems we found one, or at least a very compelling case for one. This munasabah between 103 and 104, seemingly anchored by this 149 leading to under verses 9, it does suggest the text is more than just a collection. It's a system of consciousness, an argumentative structure.
Yes. And what we've uncovered, really, is that 1049 isn't some, mystical number for a select few. It's presented as a real, observable set of structural coordinates within the text itself. It shows you exactly where the blueprint for salvation is laid out, and immediately following it, the detailed warning about what happens if you ignore it.
So the knowledge isn't just academic.
Not at all. It really forces you to internalize the choice these two chapters present side by side. The sources end with this reflection, basically. Time, Al-Arn, is watching. Are you consciously applying those 4 pillars to stay out of loss? Or are you, maybe without realizing, reflecting the traits of the slanderer, the hoarder, the one deluded by worldly permanence? It's a question for all of us to reflect on.